I really like this piece from Leon Trotsky. I think like any good piece of like Marxist literature, you could talk about a bajillion things with this, and it's really difficult to like kind of narrow things down. So I've been kind of like trying to do that for the past couple of days. The world stage, yes, thank you, Catherine. Um, so yeah, uh, that's something. Let me pull up my little sheet real quick. And in this talk, I'd like to do kind of like two distinct things. Um, One is hopefully establish a general framework for what we mean by morality, both in the liberal sense or the general sense, as well as morality as it's applied to resistance. And then two, I'd like to talk about specific points made on the left in regards to Palestinian resistance to the Israeli genocide, the ongoing genocide. Um, I'm going to be using Trotsky's Their Morals and Ours as a general guide to this talk, although I may not specifically quote Trotsky. A lot of the concepts I'll be using are from that writing. In this essay, Their Morals and Ours, Trotsky is accomplishing two major goals. The first one is that he's defending the actions of the Russian Revolution from those who have become disillusioned with revolutionary politics, kind of in general, as well as establishing a standard for a morality of revolution. The main critique of the Russian Revolution was around the moral quality of Leninism, claiming that it was Lenin, through his lack of moral compass, which gave rise to the oppressive, bloody era of Stalinism, claiming with obtuse clarity that Stalinism is the natural offspring of Leninism. There is a clear difference between a general sense of morality and the morality of resistance. Liberal morality has been developed by the ruling class to re-elect the material interest of the ruling class. This includes morality as well as religion, and Trotsky lists common sense as well. Assumptions of right and wrong are at the core of capitalist hegemony. While this may seem counterintuitive, the assumption is part of the ideology as well. For some of us, it is hard to get past this idea of being a good person as a universal truth. The hypocrisy is immediate when we think of shoplifting as bad. The hypocrisy is immediately apparent when we understand shoplifting as being bad, but hoarding profits while others starve is a business savvy. Killing is bad, but capital punishment is a necessary good. Not recycling is bad, while corporations dump toxic waste all over the planet, because that's just how things work. Liberal morality is applied to the individual person, the individual worker, and exempts governments, corporations, and rich people more generally. Trotsky notes that morality, more than any other form of ideology, has a class character. The highest pitch of the class struggle is civil war, which explodes into the air all moral ties between the hostile classes. When we are engaged in class conflict, obligatory morality goes out the window. We don't just take this as gospel, but we clearly observe the ruling classes clinging to moral correctness when other tools of political control prove useless. Surely, liberal morality is at the core of capitalist hegemony. As an example, we can look at the morally indiscernible regimes of Lenin and Stalin uh, by a quick examination of their actions. Um, I said that wrong, but I think you know what I mean. The October Revolution abolished. So the October Revolution, that would be like Lenin's revolution, the revolution of the Bolsheviks. The October Revolution abolished privileges, waged war against social inequality, replaced the bureaucracy with self-government of the toilers, and abolished secret diplomacy. While Stalinism reestablished the most offensive forms of privileges, imbued inequality with a provocative character, and strangled mass self-action under police absolutism. The two regimes of Stalin and Lenin could not have been more polar opposite. Yet, moralism demonstrates that they're actually the same thing. We will see the same banal analysis applied to Palestinian resistance. The morality of resistance does not claim to be a general morality. Any morality claiming to be universal is only universal to the ruling class of the present epoch. There can be no such automatic answers, writes Trotsky. Rather, a morality of resistance that is fused with the problems of revolutionary strategy and tactics. The question of what is correct is never rigidly fixed, but flexible and circumstantially dependent. The more morality of resistance is birthed from our strategies and our tactics. Um, in the reading, Trotsky gives five very clear criteria for what is permissible and obligatory, are the words that he uses. Action under a morality of resistance. These are the kind of actions that are obligatory for resisting oppression. One is uniting the revolutionary proletariat. Two is filling their hearts with irreconcilable hostility to oppression, to have an intense hatred of oppression. Three is teaching them contempt for official morality and the desire for an alternative. Four is imbuing them with consciousness of their own historic mission. That is understanding ourselves as the revolutionary members of the working class and those charged with bringing that change about. And then five is raising their courage and spirit of self-sacrifice in the struggle, and showing workers that we can win when we fight. While there are clear differences between the Russian Revolution and the Palestinian resistance today, there are also many parallels that allow the former to inform the latter. Over the last 3 months, there has been a lively debate on the left over the actions of Palestinian resistance on October 7th. Our side of the debate has proudly raised the flag of by any means necessary. Our comrade Jonah over at Tempest wrote a brilliant article a couple months ago called On Support of Palestinians When They Fight, Not Just When They Die, of which they have received criticism from drawing room socialists on account of lack of moral compass, similar to Lenin. The pro-settler opposition takes three key points in opposition to our unconditional support for Palestinian resistance. I'll address them all kind of in turn. The first one is that Hamas actually strengthened the Israeli extremist right wing through their attack on October 7th. This claim is based in the universal truism that violence begets violence, the kind of baseless moralism that only gains its influence by perpetual repetition, typical of those ignorant of the science of historical materialism and just a basic practice of Marxism. Sorry. From this perspective, the acts of resistance that use violence are not only morally wrong, but by extension lead to more violence on the side of the oppressor. Flattening the material circumstances into moral equivalency is the project of the reformist police embedded in working class ranks who would find their moral superiority satisfied over the liberation for Palestine. The best strategy is to resist in a morally polite manner, and eventually the oppressor will just like go away out of boredom. To blame the bloodshed on the resistor and not on the oppressor is a weird form of victim blaming that we unfortunately see kind of a lot. Yet we are plagued by those claiming that Hamas fueled the extremist Israeli right and are blamed for its growth, as opposed to Israeli being vehemently dedicated to ethno-nationalism, which seems like kind of the clear answer. The second one is that the killing of civilians is a war crime. They kind of like cry in their arguments. We should be clear here in saying that the killing of innocent people is not a tactic found in Marxism at all. Not because someone says so, but because it fails in the test of criteria presented by Trotsky. There's nothing about killing innocent people that heightens our hostility to oppression. If anything, it probably does the opposite. But we must consider what is defined as a civilian and whether or not non-combatants killed in the Al-Aqsa flood qualify. While the settler civilians who died during the attack were not presently holding rifles, they were every bit a part of the settler colonial project of genocide against the Palestinians. To claim their innocence would be to ignore the ongoing class conflict over the past 75 years. This was not a spontaneous attack of individual terrorism, but a counterattack against years and years of the worst systemic oppression in the world. If anything, those non-combatants who died were also victims of Zionist aggression and should be added to their death toll. The last point is just a kind of a direct opposition to the statement from our opposition that our moral consistency is what encourages people to listen to us, with the assumed us being socialist. This is kind of based in this liberal moral claim that if you play by the rules and stay in line, then everything will be fine. More victim blaming. This person probably has a Gandhi portrait on their wall. I forgot to put that in there. This proclamation couldn't be more wrong. In fact, Trotsky directly addresses the issue of pursuing a morality consistent with our reality. Damn near word for word, the accusation of amoralism in the eyes of conscious workers carries a complementary character. refusal to recognize moral norms established by slave owners for their slaves, extend the class struggle into the moral sphere as well. Whoever fawns over precepts established by the enemy will never vanquish that enemy. These three key moralizing claims from the pro-settler left depend on the same flat moral analysis of the defectors of the Russian Revolution. If we ever hope to progress past the politics of morality, we must start first by deepening our analysis of moments of resistance and not dismiss them with the passivity of liberal moralism. Revolutionary morality based in scientific socialism arms oppressed people in their fight for justice, granting them the perspectives and values necessary for their own emancipation.